Living the good fat life with your host Karen and Sherry. They'll help everything align for your body, soul, and mind. The good fat life, whether change comes slow or dramatically. The good fat life will help you sort things out organically.
I love it.
Me too. You just can't help but it just puts me in this space.
I
right?
know. Good Thursday. Good happy Thursday to you.
You too.
Yeah.
You too.
Welcome back, Sherry. Where have you
Thank
been?
you. It's been a
out and
whirlwind.
about, haven't you?
A whirlwind travels and all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Well, welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you. I missed you guys too.
Yeah.
And it just feels good to be here. And
Doesn't
we have new mics. So
fancy. It gets fancier and fancier here,
it
doesn't
does.
it?
It
Thank
does.
you.
And I just want to do a shout out to Rob at
and his crew.
Wayne Media, because they
Speakeasy.
and Speakeasy, they are so on top of their game, right?
They really are. They're the best in the business.
And it's fun. So today we
have the best in their game, right?
We have a guest, and I'll tell you how I met him in a minute, but when he gets on, and it's just so exciting, Karen, because and maybe that's part of the fun of being out and about too, is just meeting people.
Yeah.
And sharing stories and so let's bring Adam.
Who did you meet?
Well, the thing I always forget is, good fat life.
Yeah.
Here's our magazine, and if you're so inspired, just click on or scan the QR code, and you can get a digital subscription, right?
To Good Fat Life magazine,
Good
and we
Fat
love
Life
our
magazine.
good fats.
Yes, we do.
And so does Adam, I heard. So tell us about Adam.
Yes. So our guest today is Adam Lamb.
Welcome.
And he is a professional
Thank you
chef.
very much.
Yeah, professional chef, but we were actually calling him a Renaissance man because he
Nice.
does so many things so well. It's
wow. That's a short resume. Renaissance man. I like
Renaissance
it. Yeah.
man, exactly. Exactly. The list of things that he's accomplished at is long and exceptional and fascinating. So I first met, as you said, I've been out and about. Well, I was in Jamaica last week. And I met Adam and his wife Jennifer in the room while we came through customs, and we were waiting to get our ride to the villa. So we were staying in a villa with a mutual friend. And, Adam's like, I don't even know how the first words, but it was like the first sentence out of his mouth is like, okay, I want to know more.
Oh, that's nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Adam,
go ahead, Adam.
Just the way that you made it sound, made it sound so ritzy, and it was the hustle and bustle in the middle of the day, and we got escorted into this little kind of like cafe, and Jennifer and I were sitting there because we were trying to figure out. The guy that was organizing us said, there's one more person coming, and 24 hours earlier, we'd heard that one of the party, it was for a 60th birthday party, so one of the group had to cancel. And so we were trying to consider, well, are we waiting for the person that canceled, or is someone else coming? And then there comes Sherri with her rolly bag, and it was like the perfect breeze just caught her jacket and just kind of her hair, everything
like
coming
Mary
through.
Poppins, right? Mary Poppins into my life as well.
and so Jennifer, my wife, is an incredible. She's incredibly interested in other people. So when Sherri sat down and got a cold drink, Jennifer started rattling her cage about, what is she doing? What's going on? And I heard the phrase good fats. And that was kind of like a trigger for me because not only is, you say that I've done a lot of things in my career. Well, that's what happens when you start at age 15 washing dishes, right? I tried to do other things, but I just kept coming back to the kitchen. So I've lived through these different iterations of what people would consider good fats versus bad fats, and I grew up with margarine in the household and thought that's the way things should be. And then, of course, all along, I'm secretly watching Julia Child on PBS raving about butter and cream while she sips her wine. And I thought, man, there's a little disconnect here.
Yeah, that looks like more fun to me, too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so Sherri and I had a really great conversation. The more she talked, the more I was fascinated because as of recently, probably for the last 40 or 50 days, I have actually been very proactive about my health and to get back to a state of body and mind that only experienced probably 40 years ago. So it's a kind of a rigorous program called 75 Hard. But a huge part of that is this idea that you get to pick some type of eating program. And I had some success with a very strict style of keto about 5 years ago. And I knew I didn't want to be that rigid, I guess you would say. And so I found Dr. Berg on YouTube. And so he talks about this healthy version of keto. And so I decided I was going to do that, and I was going to do intermittent fasting. And it really seems like the intermittent fasting has unlocked some biological motors so that I've lost about 30 pounds, 4 inches off my waist. Now, I work out twice a day too, but the most important part of that element is if I'm going to be consuming 22, 24, maybe 2,600 calories between noon and 6, I need to make sure that that they're really, really high quality and that I get enough fat. As a chef, I know that it has a certain amount of mouthfeel. So when you have a buttery velvet piccata sauce or a really well-made cream sauce, it just kind of glides over the tongue. And that's due to usually the fat components, really, really high quality butter or olive oil or avocado oil. So Jennifer, again, has been cheerleading me on through this. And Jerry Seinfeld had that joke about he's going to bed and his wife stays up and researches. It's kind of Jennifer. So
yeah,
I wake up the next morning with a list. So to be able to get enough fats so that I don't get hungry later is really, really important. Not to mention the fact that, the brain basically runs on fat. And what happens with most people when they go very strict keto is they ingest a lot of protein and not enough fats. And they go through this thing called the keto flu, basically because their brain is not getting enough nutrition. So
is that when you kind of get like hazy, like foggy in your brain? Like
exactly.
You feel a little bit like not so smart.
Yeah. And part of that's also you're detoxing from all the sugar, which is kind of ironic because as we were making our way through Jamaica and some of the tourist spots that we went to and our meals, the islands were colonized for a very particular reason, to grow sugarcane. So sugar is ubiquitous in their cuisine. My mother came from Cuba, and she would tell me that, she would just gnaw on a piece of sugarcane as like walking down the street, and was so addicted to sugar that at one point what she would do is you get a can of evaporated milk, the little small 8-ounce cans, punch a hole in it and stick it in the door of the refrigerator and leave it for a week so it evaporated even more. And then she would sit there with the little can and just walk around sipping that whole day.
Nice.
Oh my
wow.
gosh. Yeah.
So no matter where we turned, we're facing some type of hidden sugars, and I don't want to be dismissive because the folks who took care of us in that villa really did an exemplary job. The chef was great, and my challenge was eating early enough. So there were a couple of days where dinners were getting served at 7:30. I was gaining a lot of sustenance from the conversation, so I felt pretty good.
Can you talk to us a little bit about good fats versus bad fats? Because I know like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we took all the fat out and all the moms started buying margarine and everything. Do you have any information about how that affected our brains and what we've seen and how we've gone back, and how can you tell us a little bit about how you've seen this?
Sure.
And when we took all the fat out of like cookies and everything, remember we had to all eat those Snackwells, which were so bad but so good at the same time. I love those. They taste like plastic.
Or the little packages that are only supposed to be 100 calories, but you eat 6.
Yes,
yeah, right.
Or 10.
Yeah.
So clearly there was a certain segment of the public that was following the science of nutrition. And very early on, just like the food pyramid, industry played a big role in how government looked at what to promote as far as what was healthy and what was not. And that depended on, their coffers in any particular year. The people who were promoting either French or Mediterranean cuisine, Jacques Pepin, Julia Child, and certain other chefs who at that time were only seen on PBS. If you didn't watch PBS, you were out of luck. They never, ever, ever wavered from their conviction that type of eating was not only good for the soul, but it was also good for the body. You know, it's nurturing, it's velvety, it is, you don't walk away from the table lacking anything. And part of that culturally, especially in Europe, is having these meals that last for 4.5, 5 hours. In the United States, we have a habit of going real fast. So I've been guilty of that many, many times, because usually in a kitchen environment during service, there's not time to sit down and eat. And when you're hungry, you know, I'm standing over a garbage can trying to eat really fast. And that not only screws up with the body's biological clock, but also the way digestion suits. So to be able to sit down and relax in the meal, almost in communion with one another, works not only for the spirit, but also for the biology of elimination and extraction of all the nutrients as it moves through the intestines.
And that's
You were going
such
to
a
say?
great, no, Adam, the point you're raising is so relevant, right? Because we've had this conversation. How many times you're just like, oh, I need to eat. I'm hungry.
Or
Right?
eating in the car
You're
and driving.
eating in the car,
and stuff.
and you're right. Or you're standing in front of the refrigerator, shoving into your mouth as quickly as possible because you got to get out the door.
Well, and also part of that is what you're eating. So if you're eating correctly, let's say, and you have enough high quality fats in the meal, those hunger pains, that you know, that freaky feeling of, oh my gosh, I got to get it, I got to get something in me right now. That's a consequence of of not having enough satiety in the body, and your brain is recognizing that, and it's going into freak out mode. So I think, you know, all the doctors who went about creating all these diets that became massive fads, I think that they were on to something, but they had a small piece of the entire truth. So everybody knows the doctor who promoted, you know, eating a lot of bacon burgers, and what ended up happening is everybody started gorging themselves on protein, and what they didn't realize is the body converts excess protein into sugar. So it doesn't store it, it just converts it to sugar or fat. And now all of a sudden you're still in that same boat. You're not losing anything. You're trying to figure out why that happens. As soon as you increase the amount of fat in your diet proportionally, and have some healthy greens and vegetables, all that stuff starts moving again. So
What is
I
the
was,
amount? I'm sorry, Adam. What is the amount of fat we're supposed to have in a day? What is the recommended daily amount? Do we know of good fats?
well, the question is recommended by whom?
Gotcha.
And everybody's different,
Yeah, that's
right?
true,
And
right,
everybody's
yeah.
different. But
Yeah.
what
What's
would you?
I mean?
Yeah,
what,
what would
what we
you?
say is a good healthy amount?
What would you use as a guideline for the average
I
person?
I would say an average person, if they were consuming 20 to 30% of their calories as fat, that would be great. 30% as 30 to 40% as protein, and the rest made up by leafy vegetables and greens. And you know, they have some great macro apps that they consider these macronutrients. So they're the kind of the bigger numbers, and they have all kinds of apps that you can download to your phone or your tablet or your PC that you can kind of log your food in, and it tells you exactly where you're at. And one of my favorite ones is by Under Armour, which is the, wait a second, I'll look at my phone because it's right here.
And while you're looking at your phone, when we say good fats, we mean anything seed oil, right, Sherri? Can you tell us like what some of the good fats are?
No, so
we throw that term around a lot.
yeah, olive oil, coconut oil. Let's see,
Avocado.
avocados,
Walnut,
walnut, green olives,
peanut.
peanut. And actually, I was guilty this morning. As I was going out the door, I had 2 tablespoons of almond butter. Right.
Nice.
But at least at least I've changed. So the change is like, instead of just being whatever I could
Exactly.
find, it wasn't a carb or a muffin
Mhm.
or something like that. It
Or
was
2 tablespoons of chocolate frosting or something.
well,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I had.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
so at least it's a different
We've
quality.
all had those
of,
mornings.
right,
Yeah.
right. A quality of
Now,
life.
see,
Yeah.
I want to be careful and not come across as some YouTube evangelist, you know, about a certain diet, because everybody has different needs for their body. That's why this program 75 Hard is, you know, some people might need to build muscle and gain weight. some people might need to lose. So it depends on what's best for you. And if any of the listeners have been out there and haven't really been taken as good a care of their body as they should definitely go see a functional medicine doctor and have him do a blood test, and he or she will pinpoint exactly which nutrients they're deficient in. But you want to be very, very careful when you say seed oils, because corn is a seed, soybean is a seed.
I gotcha.
So
Canola's a
nut,
seed.
Oh, gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
And all those oils, the seed oils, have a high degree of what they call PUFAs. And there is a growing body of evidence that suggests that the PUFA, and you'll forgive me because I don't know the full acronym of that. The PUFA, as you consume it, and what a lot of people don't realize is, our food, commercially prepared food, has gotten cheaper and more abundant, primarily because there has been a concerted effort by industry to remove good fats and replace them with seed oils, which are really, really cheap to produce. So if you look at the labeling on the food, you'd be surprised at just how much you're ingesting in any given day of these seed oils. And over time, what happens is it starts to screw up the mitochondrial cells, and the mitochondria is the mechanism by which you can actually burn fat. So think of a particular point in the day when you're feeling kind of sluggish, especially after a meal. One of the things that's happening is you're getting this high glycemic spike, and your cells are not actually able to make good use of the fuel that it has. So when it can't use it, it gets stored again. So a lot of these nut-derived oils are really great. Butter is great. Now, everybody makes a big deal about ghee, which is a staple of Indian cooking, GHEEE. And I've seen it on some specialty stores, an 8-ounce jar for mads amount of money. Actually, what you can do is you can just take a pound of butter, put it in a saucepan over a low heat, and clarify the butter, which means all the milk solids fall to the bottom of the pan, and you're left with this crystal clear, straw-colored liquid, and that's ghee. So instead of spending the money learn how to clarify butter, and you've got it for days. And because you separate the milk fat from the oil, it's now basically shelf stable, and you can have it out on your counter for a couple of days without worrying about refrigerating.
But Adam, you just brought up something that we had numerous conversations around. It is kind of creating a kitchen and a way of being that supports this, right? So you just have ghee always on hand. You have the nut butters on hand, the oils. But Adam makes cheese.
Oh my gosh!
And one of the things that's been on, as we know, my kitchen needs some love.
Yeah,
right? It needs some updating, and I just haven't had the vision of what I want it to look like. But Adam started talking about these having a space to make cheese and to make kombucha and to make these other things. So talk about that a little bit, Adam. It's just,
Sherri, you got a cheese fridge? I like it.
Well,
no, it's not a cheese. It's a cheese house.
Right. So in back of this dish pit here, what you'll see is there's a bunch of racks down here that have all kinds of things that are bubbling and gurgling and sitting.
He has a lab.
In my last,
wow.
in my last full-time position all the way through COVID, it was such that I was working primarily in the front of the house and didn't really get a whole lot of time in the kitchen. And what I realized is that when I got home, I kind of had busy hands. So I basically went all the way back to the Appalachian playbook and said, how do we preserve food? Like, what do we do with our garden's abundance so that it lasts us all year? So I started first playing around with drying food, and then vacuum sealing, and then canning, both in hot water and pressure. And that led me to creating a line of fermented hot sauces that are all non-GMO and organic. And then I started getting into cheese because I kept, for some reason, I'd look in the ads for Craigslist, and there was somebody selling fresh organic goat milk. Well, in North Carolina, it's illegal to sell organic, untreated goat milk for human consumption. So it's always for the animals. Now, I started playing around with, Chev and soft styles of French goat cheese, incredibly easy to do. And then started getting a little bit more bolder and started branching out with some pressed cheeses. And it turned out that when we moved into the house, there was a little cubby underneath a cabinet that had a little cubicle wine fridge in there, which was kind of funny because inside that little wooden cubicle, there was no place to plug it in ever. So we took it out. My wife's not a wine drinker. So I took it downstairs because I knew it would come in handy at some point. Now, fresh cheeses are always kept refrigerated and they're last anywhere between 7 to 10 days. Pressed cheeses have to be in an environment that is a certain temperature and a certain humidity. So anywhere between 50 and 60 degrees temperature and about 70% humidity. Well, it turns out that these little wine fridges do really, really well with that. So I took all the racks out and cut some cedar planks and set it in there. And now when I make my pressed cheeses, I either wax them or vacuum seal them, and they go in there for 6 to 8 months. And by the time it comes around, I have some incredible, great Swiss cheese and cheddar cheese and provolone. And there's something exciting about watching this pot of curd just start to gel at right time. It's laborious. It takes a long time to do if you're doing it correctly, but there are some incredibly informative and gracious ladies on YouTube that have made really, really great videos. And thankfully, YouTube exists because I think I probably saved thousands of dollars in this house just by watching a YouTube video and then going about and doing it. So thank you, everyone who's out there with the instructional videos.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you hungry?
It does. I could live on charcuterie boards the rest of my life. I love a good cheese moment. So this was very interesting to me. I guess if I had to be like start making something homemade, I think cheese would be the one. It wouldn't be beer or wine.
Yep.
Those things would definitely be cheese because that sounds worth it to
Yeah.
me. I love
Yeah.
cheese. Yeah.
And the great thing about it, as I said, if you were to make fresh mozzarella, say from goat's milk, the whey that's left over has so much milk fat still in it that you can bring that up to a boil and add a cup of white vinegar, and then you've got ricotta cheese. So you got double duty out of it. And the ricotta cheese is just out of this world.
From beginning to end, about how long does it take to make a cheese, just in general ballpark? I'm sure they're all different, but.
Sure. Well, the soft style goat cheeses, once it usually takes between about 35 to 45 minutes for the culture to bloom. And then you would add some type of coagulant, and you can do that with rennet or a couple other different types of, and you basically want to let that sit overnight on the kitchen table. Or in Sherri's house, she's got this really great sideboard with these curtains that come across where her kombucha is and when her ginger bug is and where all that stuff kind of sits up. So you leave it overnight, and then you spoon it out and put it into a muslin bag or butter muslin and hang it from your cabinet. And usually takes about 12 hours to drain till it gets the right consistency, but it's just sitting there in the corner, so you don't really do it. And then you salt it about 2 to 3% of its weight. And if that looks like a lot, it is, but a lot of that sodium comes out as it weeps, and you're ready to go. Eat it right out of the bowl.
Wow.
So for the soft goat cheeses, it takes a while for everything to come together, but you're not really actively working it. The hard cheeses, you can be anywhere between 2 and 5 hours standing over the pot doing some type of stirring or whatever.
But still, just hearing this, my insides are going. Oh
I know.
Gosh.
I want to go to a homemade cheese party.
I do too. Oh,
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we should do
I
it.
think
Yeah.
that'd be a great idea,
Yeah,
right?
that is a great idea.
And one of my
Yeah.
friends is just building a kitchen here in town that we could do that at. Yeah,
do
that
that.
would be so much
Yeah.
fun. So Adam, so talk to us a little bit about, kind of some of the insides on eating out. We
Sure.
have been. We've been kind of like cooking our own meals for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And we like to go out to eat. It's fun. But I've noticed, and I don't know, we've talked about this, Karen, it's like we've noticed that when we go out now and have what we think is a well-prepared, healthy meal, we don't feel good afterwards.
Right.
So can you give us some inside guidance on that? So how we can go out and have fun and still feel good?
Sure. I think part of it is human nature. I mean, a year and a half without being in relationship or communion with other human beings physically around a table is a long time, and we're not wired to do that. So I think now that things are getting a little bit back to, and I hesitate to use the word normal, but now that we're able to go out to restaurants, I think a lot of people are really going at it with some gusto. They're really excited to be there. They're really excited to be back with their friends. Part of it may be that they're overdoing it a little bit, given what, I'm sitting at home and I might have, salad and green beans. But if Sherri, you and I are going to go out, I might be tempted for a bowl of pasta, just because the conversation's great and another bottle of wine. So it pays
Or a
to be
pizza?
present and conscious,
Yeah, yeah,
because a slice of chocolate cake between two people goes down pretty quickly.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I would say the first thing to do is to ask the server about how things are prepared. Often there's some very simply prepared items on the menu. They may not seem as exotic or as tasty to your personality as you might want, but it it stems from how deeply are you committed to feeling good,
Mm.
right? And to
Great
regain your
question.
body's
Great
energy.
question, right, Karen?
And
Yeah.
what I've noticed for the last 40 some days is, being in a program helps, having accountability partners help, but there's still that point in the day where I have to make that decision for myself because there's no one else there. And I know that, all it takes is, doing your daily walk or run for 2 weeks straight, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can't believe I feel this good. Now, here's one thing also to consider, and I don't want to get off the track of going out to eat, but no one loses weight in the gym. People build muscle
Right.
in the gym. They lose weight in the kitchen. So all the things that you're putting in your mouth. So there's some sourdough crackers on the table with some olive oil, cheese, and spices, and it's very tempting during conversation to eat that and pop it in your mouth. And I I'll own it. I become almost instantaneously unconscious about what I'm putting in my mouth, especially when I'm around other people, because the food is no longer the focus. Um, so I need to be
Great
present with
point.
that.
Yeah.
Take my time, slow down, slow down, slow down, breathe. Nothing has to happen right this very minute. It's okay. The meal's taking a little while, especially with good friends. And then just making good choices. And I have a process around, it sounds funny. You ever heard the phrase first thought, best thought? So I can get really neutral before I look at a menu and open the menu up, and I'll just kind of scan the menu and I'll ask my body, okay, cheeseburger, yes or no? Nope. Really, really wanted a cheeseburger tonight.
Yeah.
Right. It's about deepening your relationship
That's a
to your
great
That's
body.
interesting.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about not having an opinion for a moment and just allowing your higher guidance, or however you'd like to language it, but to come through, and your body will tell you what it needs. And that may be um, relaxing this evening because you've been go 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 for a week in Jamaica. And and the great thing about going to Jamaica is, I have been in service almost all my life. Either I'm cooking or serving at retreats that my wife does. I'm in a service oriented industry, and most of my life has been service and hospitality out. And when we got to Jamaica, there was nothing for me to do, nothing, because everything else was I was being served too. So I had to make a very clear decision about whether or not I was going to be in judgment about that, or I was just going to allow it and be joyful about the fact that I don't really have to do anything. And it took me a couple days to get there. So there may be folks who are listening to this who are used to, doing for everyone else, especially a lot of moms with young children. You get into a situation where, can I actually relax and just let my body relax? And every day it seemed like there was a deeper going. So when it got time to the meals, nobody was really so ravenous that they were attacking the table. They might have been ready for it, but a lot of hidden calories are in dressings. So Caesar salad, almost every commercially prepared dressing, whether it's in a factory or in a kitchen, is going to have bad oils in it. And other than bringing a bottle of Primal Kitchen dressing with you, there's really no way to gauge that except, great, I'll have some olive oil and some lemon, and that'll be it. So you're looking at each dish with an idea of how you can customize it without breaking everybody's back in the kitchen. It's like, okay, it comes with rice. I don't necessarily have to eat it, and just put it on a side plate, or maybe have 1 or 2 bites. The thing about carbs is they taste so damn good. So you want to keep going. I want to keep going and going and going. So I
And
have,
every
to
bite
be
you
very
eat,
careful
yeah.
and
Yeah.
not start.
Right, because every bite you eat just makes you want. Although I did tell Jennifer about resistant starch,
Ah.
which was,
is
you know,
that?
so resistant. Do you like potatoes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
potatoes are my kind of biggest downfall in chips, fries, you know,
Mm.
however. But if you cook a potato and then put it in the fridge, and
Oh, it becomes a superfood, right?
well, and it gets cold, it changes the chemical structure of it, and it becomes a resistant starch, which is actually good for your digestion. So think potato salad.
yeah, and that's
right?
considered a superfood. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
and so
yeah.
it's there are things that you can do, but it takes as Adam's saying, kind of ownership and mindfulness and being.
If you did that with a potato, then cooked it, would you still get the same benefit out of it? It has to be
It
cold.
has
You
to
have
be
to eat
cold.
it cold.
You have to
Okay.
eat it cold, right?
Okay.
So that's the deal on that. But this is also true for rice. Now I haven't tried it, but one of the things, and Adam and I had talked about that, is we both test our blood. We use a.
Mhm.
Do you use a keto meter? Is that,
Every morning.
That's the one I use, and so we test our ketones and our blood sugar. And so I'm like, okay, this just sounds too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I tested it, right,
Right.
it was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's true. It
Wow.
works. And
Wow.
so that's been, for people that are really wanting to get to know their bodies on a deeper level, that Keto Mojo glucose and keto monitor is really, and actually it's fun, right? It's like, oh, let's see
It
what
is.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right, because you might have something during the day and you kind of wonder to yourself. And I just want to kind of take a step back and make sure that the listeners know that when I talk about a keto diet, I'm not talking about ketoacidosis, which is a life-threatening condition. What you do on keto is you restrict your carbs and sugars to the point where you're retraining your body to burn fat. As a byproduct of burning fat, your liver produces this molecule called ketone, which is the only other thing other than fat that your brain can run on. So you might have a blood sugar anywhere between, say, 70 and 90, and from a glucose standpoint, that's fantastic. But you're still not producing enough ketones because you haven't gone that long without having carbs. So, even just a couple, like, I was curious to know what would happen when I got back from Jamaica, and sure as sugar, I was out of ketosis. So I need to be a little bit more rigorous to get back in it, but it only takes a couple days. So your body has this incredible innate understanding and knowledge of how to repair itself if you just get out of the way.
Can either one of you describe what it's like to be in ketosis and out of it? Like what it feels like
Oh
mentally
yeah,
and physically?
yeah.
Adam, would you like to take
Um,
it?
sure. The first thing that you'll notice is you can go longer without feeling hungry. A lot of folks, including myself, are creatures of habit. They get up in the morning, they have their coffee, and then they're into their breakfast before they even know what hit them. And so the question is am I even really hungry? Right? That's another great way of checking in with the body. I'm like, you actually need anything? And once you start restricting that sugar or anything that can convert to sugar, you'll notice that you don't crave it. You don't crave sugar like you used to. Your energy is much more consistently spread out through the
it's
day. You don't go through
even.
any
It's
crashes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
You're not up and
Hmm.
down.
Your brain, it's hard to quantify, but it's hard. Your thinking is a lot more clear and coherent. You don't have brain fog in the morning. There's nothing to get over. And it just feels like you're getting a heck of a lot more done, even though you might not necessarily feel like you're putting forth any more effort. So it really is kind of astounding, especially if you spend a long time not feeling well, to have this kind of jolt of like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to feel. And of course, we all knew what that felt as young children, even though some parents loaded us up with sugar. That was just fuel.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of gotten, in my experience in my life, I've gotten really, really good at being able to put up with my fair share of pain. So it's just kind of my journey. I don't necessarily talk about it. But to be in any type of pain, it means your body's giving you a signal. And if you're just putting up with it, then you're ignoring it to your detriment, because what might be just an injury now turns into a chronic situation that it can take decades off your life.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the common theme of what we're saying in pretty much every situation is just to be intentional and listen to your body and kind of be thankful and aware. So, and Sherri, we've talked about this before, how important it is to be thankful when you do sit down to eat and be intentional, and how that sort of changes your entire day as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. So there's a lot of kind of layers here, but as we always like to say, it always starts with good fat.
It always starts with
With good fat.
Yeah.
So that said, Adam, one thing that we always like to do is ask our guests if there's, just something that you can recommend to our listeners that they could just do, like right now, some little step that they could take to move them to feeling better, to eating more good fats, or but we're going to ask you to hold that. Because
Yes, ma'am.
because just for a minute, because Karen and I get to talk about one of our favorite vendors or companies, and so
Who are we
let's
doing?
go. Yeah. So Snedicors.
Snedicors, yeah. I love Snedicors. I miss them so much. I'm not in their pickup area anymore, Sherri. I'm going to have to drop my dry cleaning off at your house.
Yes, you do. So,
Yeah,
so
they're fantastic.
Snedicors Cleaners is in the
Green cleaning.
and your clothes go in or come out cleaner and leaving a better footprint on the environment than when you brought them in, because they use no chemicals and
They use a sand-based cleaner.
sand-based cleaner that really is good. And the thing that's so lovely, and I've now started doing this too, is so twice a week, I just put the little yellow bag out, whether it's laundry or dry cleaning, and then it comes back, and I don't have to worry, because like we talked before, I like rushing out the door. It's like, what am I going to wear? And what am I going to eat?
It's like having your own personal butler. Jim and the crew are so great, and you can let them know if there's a stain or there's special instructions, and they always follow it to a T. And it's so nice to get your favorite things back and have them all nice and fluffed and folded for you and waiting for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just buys me a lot of time, and I consider it my mental health self-care, as well as practical self-care too, right?
Yeah, it saves a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, and it makes you feel just loved and cared for. So thank you to Snedicors Cleaners.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So Adam?
I'm just curious. Do they pick up in Asheville?
Yeah, I know.
Soon,
yeah, right.
next to the world.
Because you made it sound really, really good.
It is really.
Oh,
really
it
good.
is
It's
really,
the best.
really nice.
Yes, you're living your best life.
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And
So what to do?
Yeah.
What to do if someone wants to make a change right now?
Right. What would you recommend?
Well, I have a couple things if I can put those out. One of the things that I recognized on doing 75 hard, which is doing the same 5 tasks every day for 75 days straight, is that if I'm not organized, I am almost sure to fail. That means making my meals the night before. That means making sure that my to-do list is done before I go to bed, making sure that my gym bag is all done. I'm not advocating that anyone does this. However, having a plan is really, really important. So the first thing I would suggest is to sit down in a quiet place and ask yourself whether or not this is something that you're ready to take on right now, because you may have things going on in your life. It's still a very stressful world out there. And so how much are you able to commit to? Secondly, the very first place to start after that is going through the kitchen with a garbage can and throwing everything that's not good away. You'd be surprised at how many places in my kitchen I can squirrel stuff away. And we're not super beings. We'll get a moment where we're a little weak and reach in that back of the drawer and pick out that last piece of chocolate. So to clean your to clean
Not
your
that chocolate's
environment,
bad. It's just
Yeah.
you just want the right chocolate, right?
Yeah.
exactly
Right.
70%. You got it.
Right.
Um, so cleaning out your environment is really, really important. Planning your meals is incredibly important to be able to go to the store with a shopping list. And there's all kinds of great websites out there for anybody who wants to follow the keto plan or any other plans out there that is a balance between protein, carbs, and fats that will auto generate shopping lists. And so you don't have to create it all yourself, but you do have to be willing to be gracious and ask for help from someone else, whether that's a professional or someone that that's been going on it. um, One of the things that tripped me up a lot was, oh, okay, so I need good fats. Let me make sure that I've got bowls of nuts around, pop a couple almonds. Unfortunate thing is, if you're doing that all day long, you're way over your calorie count.
Yeah.
And people don't realize like a serving of almonds is what, like 6 or 10 or something. It's not very
Mm,
much.
right.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I would suggest, if anybody wants to do this successfully, is to visit visit their functional medicine doctor, um, have the comprehensive tests, and have clarity about where you're at. I wasn't really. I was actually pretty depressed after I got my report in the mail or via email. But when I sat down with my doctor again and went through it line by line by line, I started to become more heartened and realize that this is just where I'm starting, and I won't be there for long. So to be very, very clear about where you're starting is really important, because if you're anything like me and a very passionate person, you'll jump right into it and want to cut out everything, and sometimes that's just not sustainable. The other thing to understand is that eating this way is not a fad or a diet. It is a lifestyle. Especially as you get older, your
Great
body will
point.
appreciate the clarity and the energy that's available to it. I know a couple folks that I know who very, very rarely eat any meat, but make up with it with other types of protein, and they are incredibly vibrant. I would say that, my biggest fear was getting to the end of my life and being febrile and being pushed around in a wheelchair. And I have good reason to fear that, because for a long time I wasn't very good to my body. Especially being in the restaurant industry and getting out late and you're all jammed up. And now what do? You go to the bar and da 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 da. So to be able to recapture my vitality at this point in my life, I couldn't be more thrilled. And again, I don't want to come off sounding like an evangelist. I know it's worked for me, and I know that other people could benefit from it. And just to make one last point is that my father was 350 pounds on my frame. He was a college professor, didn't take care of himself, always put himself last. So he ate the crappy food and didn't take care of himself. And he was dead at 59. And I just turned 61. And I look almost exactly like him, except for the extra weight. And so for a long time in my life, I thought that I was predetermined or predestined to have the same outcome as my father. And now I know that a little bit of effort consistently every day yields big results. You just can't put your finger on, was that day 39 or day 40 when I could actually fit in those jeans again. And the Japanese have a word for it. They call it kaizen. So walking up these steep steps, taking small steps will get you up there. You just don't let anything get in your way.
Thank you. And you can reverse aging and all of that. You really
Absolutely.
can. Our body is meant to heal and regenerate itself. So thank you for sharing that, Adam, and thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot
Yeah.
to
I,
think
It's
about.
I have two quick things. Number one, that app I was talking about is
oh yeah.
MyFitnessPal.
Oh, my
And the
fitness
other thing,
pal. Okay.
yeah, it's a great all-purpose, and you don't have to buy the plan. They have lots of free functions. And the other thing is, I have this really secret recipe for chocolate mousse that's actually made with avocado and cashews, and I'll make sure that I
Mm,
pass that along in case any listeners would
Awesome.
like to get that from you.
Yeah, and where can our listeners find you,
yeah.
Adam?
So
Or that
I'm on
recipe?
Facebook. Well, just send it to you, just
Okay.
however
Okay.
they contact you. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Adam M. Lamb. And I also do a podcast called Chef Life Radio. And I also have a website called foodworksinc.com. And we'll make sure all that stuff gets in the show notes.
Right, right. So I listen to, I find fascinating. Cooking is all fascinating, right? And how chefs, the secrets of chefs, and how it all happens. And so the inside story, which isn't always very pretty.
No, ma'am.
It can be, and there can be beautiful moments, but there can be not beautiful, pretty ugly moments too. So I really enjoy your podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take a listen,
yeah,
yeah.
behind the words. So thanks, Adam,
Yeah,
so
thank you
much
so
for
much.
being here.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a delight, and my new kitchen is.
I can't wait to see
Yeah,
it.
I know. Yes.
We're having a cheese party at Sherry's.
Yeah, cheese party.
Right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So good. Well, take care. And Karen,
Thank
let's
you.
go
Yeah.
live our good fat life.
Yeah, and eat some good fat.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you, not only can you start, but you can also end with a good fat.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like the French, right?
Good thought. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.